Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. You want to see Ralph. It's going to be great. So everyone, welcome into the program today. Before we get to Ralph, though, everyone, I hope that you're having a great one. And of course, I'm your host, Ben, and Chris is off today. She will be back here momentarily. But everyone, hey, welcome into the show. And let's just say computeramerica.com. I hope that you're having a great Friday. Head on over there. You'll find all the shows, past shows, future shows. I know we're a couple shows behind. Sorry, that's been completely on me. But, we'll catch up today because I really want to get Ralph show up. And for all of you to check out, of course, the show notes, the podcast, and Ralph's show notes in particular are very important because, hey, that's pretty much everything that we do. But it's not verbatim. The show is still the show. The show notes are still the show notes. And, hey, you're going to want to take a look at both. So, everyone, with that being said, let's see, find us on social media at Computer America, all that good stuff. And once again, I hope that you're having a what can I say? We're coming down to the wire. You have your lights up. Everything is Christmas shopping. Amazon's already putting out notices that everything's 3 weeks behind. So if you haven't got your Christmas shipping done, hey, good luck with that. Hopefully they'll get it by mid-January or late February. So with that being said, everyone, let's go ahead and get started with our guest. And as I said before, Ralph Bond, he is our science and tech trends correspondent, and he is a longtime Computer America correspondent. And hey, he's an all-around great guy. So Ralph, welcome back onto the show. How you doing?
Oh, great. Great to be with you. And if you can see my groovy background, thanks to Zoom technology, that's Mount Hood, which is east of Portland, Oregon, about maybe 70 or so miles east of where I am right now in Hillsboro, Oregon, which, in my opinion, is the headquarters of the Silicon Forest of the Northwest, because Intel has massive research and manufacturing facilities about maybe 3 miles from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And of course, whenever I receive a call for Amazon, they're trying to deliver a package. They're out there in Washington State. Microsoft obviously is in Washington State. I mean, a lot of the big tech companies, we always think California, San Francisco, that kind of thing. But man, right. so many companies have their headquarters in kind of up more up north. So
yep.
Don't doubt it. So looks great view, great hat, hey, great everything. And Ralph, I got to say that, we could just talk about it just for a second. I'm using a different software to kind of, remove the background for me with a green screen or all that stuff. You don't have a green screen, but you are using the same effect. And it's not bad. It's not bad.
Perfect, but it's not bad.
Right. It's and of course, so anyone out there watching, if you see Ralph, and you see parts of his hat disappear or something like that,
yes.
Yeah, it's not magic or witchcraft or evil. It's hey, it's just that time of year. So Ralph, if you unless there's anything that you'd like to announce, I think I think we should just get started with the stories because we never get to them all.
Yeah. We can just dive right in.
I think we can.
So if you're ready, our first story.
I did
go
want
ahead,
to,
Ben.
of course, just mention real quick that if you're
Yeah.
watching the video portion, we'll have the show notes up there, or once
Yep.
again in the show notes, links to everything, so you can sit back, relax, and not have to worry about typing it out and typing it up.
That's it. And also, like Ben says, often we never make it through all the stories that I put together for each month. So you can come back, get the show notes, pick up where we left off if we don't cover everything. And again, as Ben was saying, links, pictures, video links, all kinds of groovy stuff for many of the stories. So with that said, story number 1, headline. Got this, by the way, from the Houston Chronicle and also the Texas A&M Today news service. So the headline is New Breathalyzer from Texas A&M, Dallas, and a Dallas company might detect COVID-19 in a minute or less. This is a really clever technology thing. And of course, so much in the news about the vaccines coming. That's wonderful. Hooray. But we're still going to need to do testing. We're still going to need to have widespread, affordable, and accessible testing. And that's why I like this story. So here we go. There's a link for a video too in the show notes. So Texas A&M researchers and a Dallas-based artificial intelligence company called Worlds Inc. are developing a rapid COVID-19 breathalyzer test system housed in a kiosk that could be placed anywhere. That's the part I think is so cool. So here's how it works. People would step up to the kiosk, as the picture in the show notes shows, and using a disposable straw, they would blow into a hole on the front of the kiosk. The system then captures the user's breath and looks for compounds, for example, neutralizing antibodies that your body generates when it's fighting COVID-19. You may not even be aware it's fighting COVID-19, right? That's the point. So users would receive the results within a minute of the test through a smartphone app. And the test is done with advanced mass spectrometry technology, which is a chemical analysis process that in this case has been made smarter by artificial intelligence software. Now, the research team claims the accuracy is comparable to the best rapid COVID-19 tests available today. So we'll see. I just think it's great to see more and more of these testing alternatives and things that are more approachable, maybe more affordable. I immediately thought of airports. Imagine if you had this breathalyzer kiosk at the airport. You could go through it in less than a minute, get your results. Maybe you could show your results on your smartphone to the check-in people so that you could validate that you're okay. I mean, it could be a really great advance, especially I think for airports and other facilities like that.
There's still some work to be done. I mean, just looking at the video of, kind of people using it with the straw. I mean, and the straw kind of sticks out to me right away. Obviously to keep people from, wrapping their lips around some kind of breathalyzer, tip or something like that. They're using a straw to blow into the hole. Ralph, hey, these are the researchers. They are the people who developed it. They are much smarter than I am. But the straw seems like kind of like a stopgap measure.
Well, it could be. And I think the other thing that comes to mind, if you want to be looking for things that are maybe weaknesses in this idea, is contamination of the straw itself, perhaps. It's
the straw is like everyone's personal straw. Like I don't know if they have like dispensers of straws or if everyone's carrying around, like on campus, everyone has their own straws that they carry in their pocket. I don't know where they're getting these straws, but
the article, Ben, to your point, the article says users would use a disposable straw. The inference I would take from that is that the kiosk would somehow make those straws available to you, I guess. But those are all good questions. And of course, is it infallible? No. But is it a useful tool? I hope.
You say airports, I say, and maybe it's just because I have it on my mind because yesterday on the show we had Waves Audio, but and they work a lot with musicians, and our guest was in talks with a lot of producers and a lot of people who tour larger venues and music concerts and things like that. Just like at the airport, put them out in front of the venue, and everyone has to kind of pass the test to some extent to kind of get in. So.
Well, and as you were speaking, I was thinking of sports teams. You take a average 50 plus member football NFL team, right? I mean, what if you could have every day when they come to practice, if you could have a bank of these kiosks so that you could test as many of the players as quickly as possible to determine if they're, okay to continue on with practice and or a game, that could be helpful too. Obviously, there's many, many possibilities.
Yeah. some kind of rapid testing is very important. And Ralph, I looked this up and I wasn't sure about the antibody test that is often kind of thrown around for COVID. So I guess like even if you test positive for signs of antibodies, I guess they'd still let you in, Ralph, if you don't have physical symptoms, like if you're not sneezing or coughing or anything like that, because
high fever,
the antibodies stick around for, I think, like 2 to 3 months is what I can Google here. Yeah, 2 to 3 months. So this mixed with, obviously, hey, did you just cough? Get the heck out of here. Stuff like that would definitely be useful. But yeah, this is certainly different. And, you hate to say it, but even if we get a handle on COVID-19, although I really don't hate to say it, Ralph, I'm hoping that everything that we kind of develop with the best use and practices and things like that, it seems like, before this, we always let the flu kind of rip through our population. It's like, oh, flu season, get the vaccine or don't, whatever. It's just, one of those things. I hope that we take what we've learned about COVID and apply it to some other diseases that, or viruses that, hey, we can get a better grip on as well.
Yeah. Boy, amen to that. In fact, I heard a story just before coming on the show. I was listening over my lunch to MSNBC TV, and they were having an expert on virology saying, well, yeah, COVID-19, but friends, the next horrible thing is out there in nature waiting to pounce, and we need a worldwide coordinated monitoring effort to help us be better ready for the next horrible, nasty thing that's coming. So, oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it's, and of course, no one saw, although, yeah, okay. All that aside, yes. And of course, with Ralph, really over the past 6-8 months, a lot of our stories have been about COVID, but, it's not all of them, everyone. So, the first one, that's perfectly fine. And they're usually hopeful as well. So that's okay.
There you go. We'll get the COVID out of the way now.
Definitely. Story number 2, though, is actually about giant death lasers. So go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, death for the target, but we'll explain. It sounds scary. Okay. Giant lasers help recreate supernovas, explosive, mysterious physics. This came from sciencenews.com. This was really kind of an interesting, fun story. There's a video as well, and the links are in the show notes. So about 10 years ago, researchers at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California embarked on a quest to understand a fascinating and poorly understood feature of supernovas, in specific, the shock waves that form when a dying star explodes that can boost particles such as protons and electrons to extreme energies. So the scientists have long puzzled over how such waves give energetic particles their massive speed boost. So this is really geeky science stuff here, folks. Recently, the Lawrence Livermore team created a supernova-style shockwave in the lab and watched it send particles hurtling, revealing possible new hints about how it happens in the cosmos. The team used 192 large and extremely powerful lasers aimed on a target in a huge chamber to recreate the physics seen in the aftermath of a supernova blast. The lasers vaporized a small target, which can be made of various materials such as plastic, and the impact of the lasers produces an explosion of fast-moving plasma, a mixture of charged particles that mimics the behavior of plasma erupting from supernovas. So, bringing supernova physics down to Earth could help resolve other mysteries of the universe, such as the origins of cosmic magnetic fields. So this one's a real brain squeezer, but check out the article. There's more detail than what we provide. Of course, what I do in these articles, by the way, folks, is I extract sort of the greatest hits, comments, and so forth from the articles. To do it justice, go back always and read the full article if you're interested.
Yeah, and definitely check out the video. We're going to, hey, look, Giant Onion. Yeah, we're going to, kind of let that, well, yeah, we were watching the video and seeing what they were talking about with all the lasers. I mean, it's, Ralph, and I'm assuming that like a lot of this is figured out with the math. You can figure out a lot of the reactions with pure math equation, but being able to recreate a supernova,
yes,
I would have advised against it, but they said, yeah, no, this is good stuff.
Well, I think it's because very small amount of material, plastic or whatever, that's the target, and in a very contained kind of chamber situation.
Right.
Although I'm with you, it seems like it would be kind of a little bit of a spooky thing to do, but there it is. I thought it was a fun story.
Supernova are one of the things that I recall from a past guest on the show talking about, kind of how humanity is going to end. Supernovas is probably one of the ways that our Earth at least ceases to exist. So creating, bringing it home, kind of doing it in your own kitchen is probably not the best thing. But, just like the Large Hadron Collider, we didn't create black holes and we all didn't obliterate. So, hey, why not a couple supernovas? Throw that in there. It's so high tech, and it really is a great thing that, research like that is able to continue in, with everything going on. Story number 3, and flying cars have been such a weird topic, Ralph, because like we've had companies that they are the ones making the flying cars. We've had the regulatory bodies that are working to get them in, I was about to say on the road, but on the road and in the air. We've had every different aspect of a flying car. No luck really whatsoever. Like there's tests and tests and tests. Story number 3 is a bit further than I've seen it.
Yeah, I agree with your feelings about this because it's an interesting development. So this comes from the New York Times. The headline was Orlando, Florida unveils plans for first flying car hub in the United States. So let's explain. There's some great images in the show notes too, by the way, of this vehicle. And there's a video too. So here's a news story that immediately makes boomers like me think of George Jetson and his flying car in the early 60s comedy cartoon show. So younger folks in the audience might go, what? But if you just Google George
Jetsons,
Jetson, you'll get it. The Jetsons, right. Anyway, the city of Orlando, Florida, and Lilium, a German aviation company, recently unveiled plans to build the first hub for flying cars in the United States. So it's not that it's the first time we've had flying cars, of course not. And it's not the first time, to your point, Ben, that the people have thought about doing this here and elsewhere around the world. But what's making this more concrete is this hub they're talking about creating. So this 56,000 square foot transportation hub, which resembles an airport terminal, and you can see that in the pictures in the show notes, is scheduled to be completed in 2025. The all-electric powered air taxi. So really, this is not personal cars exactly, flying personal cars. It's flying taxis, which will carry 4 passengers and a pilot, will be capable of taking off vertically from the hub and will reach speeds of up to 186 miles per hour. Now, the flying taxi hub will be in Lake Nona. I hope I'm saying that correctly. That's Nona, a community next to the Orlando International Airport. Okay, so there are some reality checks to this story. The project and electric flying taxis will require approval from the Federal Aviation Administration. And the aircraft are still in developmental phase, but you can see some great videos of the aircraft in action now, as we have a link in our show notes as well. So, it's interesting. Again, I think what moves us into a little more into the world of real is the creation of the hub and establishing what might be a viable air taxi service. We'll see.
Yeah, and when flying cars are going to be here, it's going to be more air transport than it is, kind of personal car transport, like you were saying, Ralph, and kind of looking at this is their website that we kind of pulled up here, and their interface. Really, it looks almost like they just took a screenshot of the Uber app and just put their logo in the top. That's what they're dreaming of, is that kind of they find a way to land in your driveway and then take off to somewhere else or some other designated place.
Exactly.
Ralph, I don't know. There's so many solutions to this, because this seems to be a solution to mobility within cities, and even being able to fly directly from the airport directly downtown. Yeah, it would be much faster than 2 hours fighting traffic to get downtown.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. The big issue, though, of course, is air traffic control. So. Yeah. This is great, but if suddenly you have thousands of these things in cities all over the world hopping around, You're going to have to, it just adds additional air traffic control things, but perhaps the benefit far outweighs the challenge of that traffic control.
Ralph, maybe at some point in the near future, we're going to have different air zones where it's like, commercial flights, helicopters, and then below that you have air taxis, drones, drones professional, drones personal. I don't know what the future is going to look like, but
that's really interesting, Ben. Immediately I thought to myself, as we have for radio bands, right? Certain wavelengths or bandwidths are allocated to this purpose and others for commercial and this and so forth. Yeah, you make a good point. That could very well be the case.
And then of course air traffic control itself is still unfortunately done by the majority by people, just everyone saying, wait, don't hit that guy. That's how it's still done today. So there's improvements to be done there as well. But I am looking forward to this, and this is yet another company. I bookmarked them. I'm going to invite them on the show. We've had a couple so far.
That would be fun.
I think it really would be. And 2025 is not that far into the future.
No, 4 years. Basically,
yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. So, story number 4, again with the air.
Yes, we're up in the air again. This time, kind of an Iron Man like deal. You'll see what that's all about here in a second. So, the headline is UK, United Kingdom, air ambulance service tests paramedic using a jet suit to fly to injured hikers, actually to fly to simulated injured hikers. This comes from businessinsider.com. Some great images, some really fun videos. And this jet suit has been around for a while. It's not like that's new. It's just the interesting thing that there's this public service, this paramedic service in the United Kingdom that's actually giving this a go to see if it could be useful. So here's the story. And there's a video too. So the Great North Air Ambulance Service of Northern England recently partnered with Gravity Industries, and they're makers of an Iron Man-like amazing jet suit to test the idea of having flying paramedics. So the idea here is, can we take this jet suit that's been around for a few years from this company, Gravity Industries, and can we see if it could really help us for difficult to access rescue missions? So the test involved a simulated rescue location in a rugged mountain area that would take a paramedic team on foot from the nearest roadway about 25 minutes to reach the victims. But with the jetpack, the paramedic that you see pictured in the show notes reached the site in 90 seconds. 90 seconds versus 25 minutes. Wow, that could be life-changing. So here's more on this Gravity Industries amazing jetpack, and I encourage you to read the article and learn more about them. The fascinating stuff. This exoskeletal suit combines 5 body-mounted miniaturized jet engines, and by shifting body weight and arm positions, the pilot can take off vertically and steer flight direction. And the fuel capacity of the backpack tank allows one to fly at 32 miles per hour for up to 9 minutes. So again, it's sort of like the previous story. It's not that flying cars, and we've had them for years. We've had this jet suit and others like it for a while now, but the idea of real world practical applications of this technology, and in this case for paramedics. I thought this was a really fun story.
So most paramedics are in good shape. I'm not going to really assume, anyone's level of physical fitness. But Ralph, something I heard about these suits, and just for anyone out there thinking, boy, this would be so fun, I would love it. Because they're strapped to your arms, which is, I think when everyone thought about, kind of Rocket Man and the jetpack, they thought it was going to be strapped to their back.
Yeah, like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, exactly. Ralph, I don't know if you know this, but I've heard when people put these on, the way that it works with your arms, imagine holding a push-up the entire time you're doing this, because your arms want to go up and out in different directions.
Oh, you've got it. I see your point.
You have to hold a push-up for the entire flight time that you're doing this.
Now you need some kind of technology to assist you with your arm strength.
Exactly. Yeah, no kidding. It really is physically intensive to do this. So
interesting.
It's very, very cool that they're able to do this. And I got to say that I guess this mix, and look at that little drone just falling right behind him. That's awesome. We really are in the future. I'm calling it. This would probably not be good for, kind of search and rescue because, again, the limited flight time and, the physical labor.
Right.
But, use a helicopter, find the hikers, find the injured person, and then you can quickly get to them after doing this.
Yeah.
It's
this is a curious use of this technology or an interesting use.
it honestly, it's a great use. Better than scaring people over at LAX. This seems to be way better than than that. So no, great story. I definitely appreciate that one. So there you go. And again, video in the show notes. You can see it there. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. I always just like to remind people that, with those jet suits, again, it's like holding a push-up. It's like everyone's like, I want one. You probably can't use it. It's very, very tough. I don't know. So
I probably couldn't.
I definitely couldn't. I'm just saying that much. So, okay. Story number 4, story number 5. And this is in your neck of the woods. And
yes, it is.
Man,
yeah, Ben, and this
sir?
story, yeah, Ben, this story is also going to have an immediate relation to story 6, the next one. So they're kind of thematically linked as the last couple
However you want to handle these
been.
2 stories is fine with me.
There we go. Okay, so and again, it's a little Oregon self-serving here for a moment, but it's part of a trend which I think is really fun, which story 6 amplifies. So, but anyway, story 5, Oregon State Universities. Their researchers make a key advance for printing circuitry on wearable fabrics. Very interesting. So these days, of course, there's a growing interest in electronic textiles for smart clothing. That is clothes that can integrate sensors, displays, power sources, and logic circuits. And again, that's not new. There's been this interest for a long time. The idea of smart clothes is great, but the challenge to date is that fabricating rigid electronic devices on cloth is expensive, requiring a lot of heat and energy. So it's just a barrier to this possibility. Now, thanks to a key advance by Oregon State University researchers, smart clothing may one day be manufactured more efficiently. The Oregon State University breakthrough involves a new inkjet printing process and materials with a crystal structure to facilitate embedding electronics in fabrics. They came up with a stable, printable ink with the ability to apply circuitry directly onto cloth with precision and at low processing temperatures. The simplicity of the team's inkjet printing process, its scalability and performance are all promising for the future of wearable smart textiles. Now, note, I have grossly oversimplified this story. So for more about the science behind this, be sure to check out the OSU, the Oregon State University press release, and the link that's in the show notes. And that really, friends, that's true for all the stories we do. I'm giving you the greatest hits, Reader's Digest, super cliff notes, kind of super condensed highlights of these articles. For all the really great science and the depth of knowledge, go and look at the original articles.
He didn't even mention the CS2 SNL6, kind of the chemical makeup of it. I mean, not everything, Ralph, is included. Is there's even more within the article. So
much more.
Which now, of course, like you said, skipping over to number 6, it's in another application.
Yeah, so this is really fun. This comes from sciencefocus.com. And future wearable personal data devices may be made of self-healing electronic skin. Yeah. My wife goes, ew. I'm going, bring it on, baby. Anyway, some really fun images here and so forth. But for those of you who don't have the show notes in front of you, so let's do a mental picture here. So picture a super thin, wrap around your wrist, second skin-like device to monitor your health, like a futuristic Fitbit that becomes part of your body. And that's sort of my take on this article, by the way, not a quote from the article. So that's what researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder are developing, and they say it will be fully recyclable and capable of repairing or healing itself. That's the thing that really got me going. I said, I've got to know more. The electronic skin prototype can perform sensory tasks, such as tracking a daily step count or measuring body temperature and heart rate. That's not unique or special. A lot of devices can do that. But it can be shaped to fit anywhere on the body. The researchers used an innovative screen printing technique to create a network of liquid metal wires for the electronics. They then used two thin films made of a self-healing material known as polyamine, and there's various pronunciations for that, so God forgive me if I got it totally wrong, but polyamine to cover the circuit. So two thin films of this self-healing material, really weird. The end result is a little thicker than the adhesive strip of a Band-Aid. That's not very thick, right? And can be applied to the skin using heat. And Ben, you're going to love this. It can also stretch by 60% in any direction without disrupting the electronics inside. And get this, if it's damaged, the electronic skin, so to speak, has the capability to heal itself in about 13 minutes as the bonds that hold together the polyamine material will begin to reform. Freaky cool, I think. We'll see where this goes.
It's so experimental, and
yes.
I durable electronics. I guess, Ralph, we saw the, kind of in the consumer space, how expensive and how much work Samsung put into their foldable phones. And that's just for like displays. This bendable material, it's coming. It'll be here. But seeing how much research is going into it, it's crazy. And I also appreciate the fact that this is from University of Boulder, Colorado. That's currently where my brother's teaching. So one from your neck of the woods, one from ours. So.
Oh, cool! That's super cool.
Yeah. Hey, it's a very, very small world when it comes to research, but okay.
Yes, it is.
Looking forward to it. Can't wait till I can just, it's like my computer's not working right. Hit it with a bat. It'll heal itself. And just some nice percussive maintenance. And you're good to go.
Yes.
Okay. Don't break your electronics, folks. Story number 7, Harley Davidson. And I did see this, Ralph. I did not cover it on the show because, it's just kind of one of those strange stories where it's like Harley Davidson, they're known for, they're like the American classic. They're all heavy duty motorcycles. They're tough. They're rugged. Electric bicycles. That's more progressive and kind of city and clean living and that kind of thing. Very opposite, but the two mixed.
You're very wise to point out that it's kind of a fascinating culture shift, if you want to call that, or a cultural expansion of the company. And you're going to find out they actually are doing it through a sub company that they've created for this purpose. So the bikes themselves will not literally have the Harley Davidson brand, but they are made by and part of the Harley Davidson family. So anyway, with that said, this story comes from Business Insider. Headline was Harley Davidson electric bike opens for pre-orders. Oh, I forgot to put in the author of the story. I'll get that in the show notes. The motorcycle giant recently launched
Tim Levin. Author.
Tim Levin. That's right. Thanks. So the motorcycle giant recently launched 4 electric bike models under its Serial One Cycles company brand. So again, Serial One Cycles company, but they are part of Harley Davidson. So these bikes, right off the top, this is not a budget product. The bottom end is $3,400 per bike. The top end is $5,000. And they have a top speed of 28 miles per hour. We're going to get into some more specs here in a moment. Pre-orders are now open, and the bikes will ship in the spring and summer of next year, 2021. So here's some of the cool features. An all-aluminum frame, integrated battery, and a mid-mounted motor, a range of up to, and now this is the qualifier here is depending on how you're using it or how much uphill, what speed and so forth, but ultimately a potential range of up to 105 miles. And instead of a chain, the bikes utilize a belt drive to cut down on maintenance. All the bikes use a pedal assist system, meaning there's no throttle. Instead, the electric motor helps out when it senses the rider is pedaling. And using handlebar mounted controls, riders can switch between 4 levels of pedal assist: eco mode, tour mode, sport mode, and boost mode. Now, here's the part that appealed to me as a boomer. There's also a walk assist button that helps riders with a little extra help when they're walking the bike uphill.
The bike can be a bit heavy, yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. And although the aluminum frame and so forth, they've done everything they possibly can to reduce
But
weight.
the batteries
to
are
their credit.
batteries, you know? Yeah.
Well, a battery is still a battery. You're absolutely correct. Hydraulic disc brakes provide the stopping power, and starting in the spring of next year, riders will be able to connect their bike to a Bluetooth-enabled smartphone app to see key rider data. They didn't specify what all that rider data would be, but you can imagine it'd be miles and maybe battery,
Location. Yeah.
you know, all that kind of stuff, and how much power is left in your battery, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the main thing here is the explosion of electric bikes along with cars.
Bad word to use, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, electric bikes are really exploding in popularity.
Again,
as are
another
electric
bad
cars.
word to use, Ralph.
What's that?
Exploding, explosion,
Oh yes, exploding. Yes, not with anything with
the
batteries. No, we
increase
don't
in
want
popularity of yes, the increase in
are
popularity.
rapidly increasing in popularity. How about
yes. There we go.
In fact, I was at a big shopping mall that had one of these huge displays like you see on the highways now. They're not LED, but you know what I'm saying. The big changing electronic displays.
Right.
And one of them was for a car company. It wasn't Tesla, but it was somebody else. And it said electric cars used to be weird. Now they're the new norm. And I think, you know, in a way, we're kind of moving more and more to electric vehicles. So this is why I thought this story was cool.
I would push back a little bit on that billboard that you saw that is totally going to hear this. That I wouldn't say that they're the new normal, but there's a lot of legislation, Ralph, that we follow here on the show, starting in like 2030 in the UK, 2035 in California, 2040 in the EU, that there will be no combustion engine vehicles sold in those areas after 2030, 2040.
Yeah.
They're not the norm yet, but you know, give it 20 years and they will be absolutely the norm.
Yeah. And we're on our way.
I'm going to be one of those people in 20 years that's going to be like, you know, I saw the rise of the computer in everyone's home, and then I saw, you know, like, yeah, the rise of the electric car, and you know, cars used to run on you know, kind of dead dinosaurs. It was great.
Dinosaurs and plants.
Yeah, dead dinosaurs and plants, of course. Can't forget the plants.
Yeah,
but but back to the story in particular, and of course the Serial One, bookmark that as well. Ralph, you're doing my work for me.
There it is. And you know, as a little side commentary, talking about right where we are today, my wife and I have become fascinated with Toyota Prime technology, which they use in their a couple of their models of cars, and they're supposed to come out with it for the RAV4. But here's the deal: most of us, certainly me, drive 40 or less miles a day. The Prime technology concept that Toyota has says that you can drive all electric for up to 40 miles, and then it'll switch over to traditional hybrid mode. Wow, that means effectively for probably 90% of the time, I'll be driving all electric. But with the option to go into hybrid mode and gasoline and so forth, and if I exceed that. But again, the statistics show that most American drivers are 40 miles or less per day, unless you live in Los Angeles. But I love that kind of clever super hybrid kind of thing in a way.
Yeah, no, I was and you know, when we were shopping for a new car, the RAV4, it just gets crazy good reviews. So, you know, we were looking at that as well, and that little add-on with the battery in the first 40 miles, you know, just kind of speaking of our personal experience as well, because hey, we don't get out much anymore thanks to COVID.
Yeah, right.
You know, for groceries or just running a quick errand or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, small batteries can probably do it for a lot of people. And then, of course, electric bikes. You know, we had another correspondent on the show, you know, who unfortunately passed away. But before he did, you know, he was an older gentleman, and electric bikes were kind of his, like, that was the cause that he took up, you know, in his later years, because it let him stay active. And I was like, you know, so how was your weekend? He's like, oh, it's great. I biked like 80 miles this weekend. I was like, wow, what? And he's like, oh yeah. And the electric bike gave him that mobility and you know, for an aging population. But I mean, I gotta say that the Serial One, they're not looking at like the looks, the aesthetics, the durability of it. This is definitely like a rugged commuter
real
bike.
Deal commuter bike. I agree
this
with
one's
you.
serious. Yeah, this is a really nice bike. So there you go. Looks amazing, and again by Harley Davidson of all companies. Who saw that coming? And Ralph, speaking of who saw that coming, the story that we did before with the University of Oregon with the flexible fabric, did you see whose philanthropic arm funded that research?
Oh, refresh my memory on that. I remember reading that.
Walmart.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
And of course, I'm sure that Walmart has a lot of interest in being able to sell clothes that they have that technology. So
yeah, absolutely.
Great research. Ralph, why is there a fish on my screen? Explain this to
me. This was really okay. So fishing goes high tech, and we're talking about massive commercial fishing. But here's the headline. This comes from CNN. Headline is How Smart Nets and Scanners Could Keep More Fish in the Sea. And so let me give the setup here. So across the globe, large-scale commercial fishing trawlers. So we're talking about the big boys here and girls. Large-scale commercial fishing trawlers using huge nets are catching fish faster than nature can replenish. Gee, no surprise. In fact, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, more than a third of global fish stocks were classified as overfished in 2017. And of course, it's not getting better.
Right.
But to help save as many fish as possible, the European Union is funding a project called SmartFish H2020. And that's led by a Norwegian company called Sintef Ocean. That's Sintef Ocean. Now, Sintef Ocean is working with fishing companies, tech suppliers, and universities to design equipment to help reduce the commercial fishing industry's impact on marine life. And their latest innovation is a new kind of trawling net called Smart Gear. Now, here's the fun part. Smart Gear emits sounds and uses LED lights of different colors and intensities to attract, they claim, only the target species to the net. Let's say, for example, tuna, encouraging other unwanted fish that could be victims to swim away. Now, there's a lot of science and details here that I'm not getting into. You might want to dig down deeper and find out what's going on. But I just thought, how intriguing is this to have smart nets that do this to help encourage unwanted fish to go away and the fish you're targeting to come to you, although that still doesn't help replenish the targeted fish. Right? But it's still something.
Ralph, and I gotta say that it actually does. This is one of the stories that it may not seem like it at first, but if you are catching X amount of fish and you have to spend time and you bait your net and that kind of thing. Let's say you catch 80% of the fish that you want, and 20% of the biomass that you catch are unfortunately sea turtles, dolphins, things that you would rather live that you don't need.
Right.
If you could selectively say, we don't need that, and you actually catch 100% of the fish that you actually need, you're disturbing less of the wildlife, you're getting out of there faster, all that good stuff. Like this, it seems like, we're finding a better way to destroy the ocean, but it's actually a better way to, sustain what we're trying to do, but also sustain the environment in which we're doing it. You got to work on it at both ends,
Yes, exactly right. And then to finalize the story, it ends with a little segue here about another technology this bunch is investigating called Catch Scanner. Now, it produces a 3D color image of fish caught, which is then analyzed using artificial intelligence to quickly estimate the weight and identify the species caught. So that's, after the net is pulled in and so forth, this technology goes into works. And so it's just kind of a fun story about, you don't think of the fishing industry as being very techy, other than the scanners looking for the schools of fish and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that technology's been around for a long time.
I was never really into fishing, but my friends had a boat and they used. I was very surprised at how much scanning equipment and kind of tensioner sensors that they were using. Fishing can get high tech, so I'm glad that they do embrace it. The only thing I got to say about the color image of the fish. The only thing I can say about that is, sometimes you want to catch the males and not the females, or you want to, catch, because males have different colorations than females, being able to identify even to that extent, leave the reproducing females, take the bigger, meatier males. Hey, that could also help this whole thing as well.
That's an interesting twist on that. Yeah.
There's hope. Ralph, I always say that you give us hopeful stories. This one, while on the surface, get it, surface, fish, whatever. On the surface, it may not seem very hopeful, but I think it actually is hopeful. So.
Well, and then to segue again a little bit, just recently I was hearing some new developments in the field of cell technology to create real but lab created meat. And so who knows, someday we may have the ability to create tuna, create beef, create whatever, chicken, without having to kill any animals, because we're making the meat in massive labs, which of course will put millions of people out of work, but it's interesting.
Well, honestly, you know, and job displacement does come up here once in a while with us, Ralph, but, you know, more so than people's jobs, I'm probably more concerned with the fact that, hey, you know, you don't have to kill a bunch of cows. That's pretty awesome. And billions of cows, actually. But the thing I got to say, I think the story you were referring to was the first instance of a lab-grown meat approved in Singapore, I believe. Singapore rings a bell.
That sounds familiar. I think that's what I saw.
It was Singapore. It was chicken, and essentially, Ralph, instead of think about, you know, just the fact that you have to grow a life, like whether or not you consider a chicken a life, a chicken, you know, you have to grow the brain of the chicken, the heart of the chicken, the bones of the chicken, the organs of the chicken, the feathers of the chicken. What if instead of that, you just use a bit of the cell cultures, the biomass, you put in all the ingredients, let the cells massively reproduce, and instead of producing the entire chicken, you just produce the chicken meat that was never connected to a brain, that was never hurt or had to be killed or anything like that. That is the hope of the future, is that you just make a steak instead of making a cow and then harvesting a steak, you know?
Well, and also, Ben, when you think about cattle production for food, the enormous amount of land and energy, and then, as our British friends would say, the methane or methane emissions, and so all these sorts of things that go along with animal agriculture, as it were, are profoundly impacting on the climate and the environment. So again, on one hand, because Oregon is a very agricultural state as well as a high-tech state, it's painful to think about the negative impact on farming and ranching and so forth. But on the other hand, you think about the survival of the planet and the feeding of millions upon billions of people. Right. Well, you know, maybe it's a hybrid of both kinds of things. I don't know. We'll find out.
It's certainly something that, Ralph, if farmers aren't the ones to research this, other farmers are going to get their hands on the technology and they're going to do it themselves. So, you know, it's, again, I'm taking hope in all these. I'm taking solace in these stories. I definitely like these. So this is great. Ralph, we're going to go ahead and do story number 9, speaking of farming, and then I'm going to start picking through some of the other ones and, you know, and do that. So if you'd like to, story number 9.
On to farming, more farming. So this comes from scitechdaily.com, a wonderful website, by the way. Also from University of Texas at Austin. So engineers develop self-watering soil that could transform farming. Okay. Great illustration here in the show notes. So a new type of soil created by engineers at the University of Texas at Austin can pull water from the air and distribute it to plants. Now I'm going to do a quick timeout. I believe it was last month, Ben, you and I talked about an MIT technology that looked like a solar panel, but what it was doing is at night it was extracting moisture from the air, even in very dry climates. And then the output the next day when this panel warmed up was the condensation and so forth, and the production of drinkable, clean water, right?
Remember said that they wanted to put those in deserts as like kind of like water reservoirs or pit stops, you know, just produce water with no human interaction.
Yeah, so that, you know, there's a linkage in a way emotionally or symbolically with that story from last month. So again, the new type of soil created by the engineers at the University of Texas at Austin can pull water from the air and distribute it to plants. So this breakthrough could potentially expand the map of farmable land around the globe to previously inhospitable places and reducing water use in agriculture at a time of growing droughts and climate change, right? The team's atmospheric water irrigation system uses super moisture absorbent gels to capture water from the air during cooler, more humid periods at night. That's the linkage to the MIT story we were just talking about, that too captured moisture at night. Solar heat during the day activates the water-containing gels to release their contents into the soil. And when the soil distributes the water, some of it goes back into the air, increasing humidity and making it easier to continue that harvesting cycle, as it were. And depending on the crops involved, approximately 0.1 to 1 kilogram, or 0.35 ounces approximately, of the soil can provide enough water to irrigate about a square meter of farmland. Wow, let that sink in. Yeah. That's wow.
It's certainly a lot, and I guess advanced farming techniques, less impact on, like you said, the water for irrigation, things like that. Definitely needed. That great,
interesting stuff. Yeah, now the question you have to ask yourself: how practical and what's the cost to widely distribute this to make a 100-acre farm really work in an arid place? We'll see. But it's a fun, interesting thing.
I mean, but there's already so much infrastructure put into place for, because farmers have to buy their seeds, they have to import their fertilizer, they have to import, so many other things that they're already tending to their soil. Hey, possibly maybe they're able to work this in with maybe the fertilizer, and, your crops need X amount of less water. Just, there are ways, and it's doesn't break apart the whole system. So this is
exactly
good. Ralph, I'm looking through all the rest of your stories, and I got to say, story number 14 kind of grabs my attention because it's so kind of obvious, because the technology is there, but at the same time, I've never thought to use it in this way, and that's where I think true innovation comes. Is not when you're like, completely redesign everything. It's like, that's not change. Change is something that you can affect right now. So.
Yes. And Ben, this reminds me that over the years, we've talked about how the smartphones, when you put smartphones out there over time, people come up with these amazing applications for them. In this case, we're talking about smartwatches. And I love this story too. So this comes from Science News. Headline was, a smartwatch app alerts users with hearing loss to nearby sounds. So we'll get into this here. Read the article. It's got so much more detail than what we're going to do right now. But a new smartwatch app called SoundWatch alerts users who are deaf or hard of hearing of nearby sounds such as a microwave beep or car horns. The SoundWatch app pairs with an Android smartwatch and phone. So right now, this is for Android smartwatch and phones only currently. Mm-hmm. It's available now. You can get it now via the Google Play site, and the link is in the show notes. To work, a user must have a Google Wear OS smartwatch, as we mentioned before. Now, the watch records ambient noises and sends that data to the phone for processing. When the phone detects a sound of interest, the smartwatch vibrates and displays the notification. The show notes show some of those displays, okay? Developed by a computer scientist at the University of Washington in Seattle, the app can identify today 20 noises. In experiments, SoundWatch correctly identified those 20 sounds 81.2% of the time. And when you talk about ambient sound, I think that's pretty darned impressive. When set to listen only for urgent noises, so this is kind of interesting. You can tune it to listen only for urgent noises, such as a fire alarm, a door knock, or alarm clock. The app was 97.6% accurate. Wow. So 8 deaf and hard of hearing people who use SoundWatch around the university campus gave the app broadly favorable reviews, but noted that the app misclassified some sounds in noisy outdoor settings. So is it perfect? No. But is it a step in the right direction? I would say absolutely yes. The research team is now working on a version of SoundWatch that users can train to recognize new sounds, such as their own house alarm, using just a few recordings. For those of us in the community, or for our friends and neighbors who are dealing with disabilities such as hearing loss and so forth, I just love medical technology stuff. As you know, Ben, that's been one of the near and dear topics that we've covered over these years. Great story, fun stuff.
really medical stuff, but also just kind of usability and accessibility. It's
yes,
making so that everyone can, really use what we kind of take for
Yes.
granted as, kind of people. But again, what I liked about it was just that, the tapping, the thumping on your wrist and that kind of thing has been around for a while. And yeah, just being able to use the microphone in conjunction with that. And perfect.
Cool stuff.
So yeah, there was that story. And then while the Waymo one was very strange, I saw story number 12. We didn't cover it on the show. And I think now is the time. Story number 12.
Yes. Story number 12 comes from futurism.com, another fun website, folks. A headline: Europe is launching a giant claw to grab space junk. Oh, not June junk. My bad. Let me get that edited in here right now. Sorry about that. Space junk, not June. And there's a great picture of what this prototype is going to look like, or what this thing will eventually look like. So it's estimated, and we all know this, it's estimated that there's a little more than 11 million pounds of space junk orbiting Earth. And Ben, you and I have looked at those websites that show you the Earth and then show you all the gunkus that's around the Earth satellites and debris and everything. That's kind of fun. If you haven't seen those websites, you should check it out, friends. So here's the story. The European Space Agency is planning to launch a massive claw-like space vehicle designed to pluck large pieces of space junk out of the sky and steer them towards the Earth's atmosphere to be burned up. That's a cleanup detail. It's badly needed, too. The agency recently signed a $103 million contract with Swiss startup called ClearSpace SA to launch the first version of the system. The first mission will be to remove a piece of space debris from orbit in what the scientists behind the effort say will be a world's first effort. The startup is planning to launch its mission, dubbed ClearSpace 1, in 2025. So it's a few years from now, of course. It will attempt to claw a retired Vespa payload adapter, a European Space Agency developed rocket part designed to deliver payloads into different orbits, and deorbit this thing for disposal, meaning push it into the atmosphere for burnup. The spent rocket part, weighing about 250 pounds, was left at an altitude of around 800 kilometers back in 2013, which is considered to be within the confines of the graveyard orbit, where retired pieces of satellites are currently dumped. So now we can start cleaning this stuff up. It's a great thing to do, and it'll be fun to see if this works, but we got to wait until 2025.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to see a map of these of all of the debris in space, I just found the site. I just found out about them. Stuffin.space.
Yes, there you go.
So
I love those.
.com.
It's so enormously freaky to look at all those things and think all that stuff is up there. You want to talk about air traffic control? Holy moly!
Yeah, and of course, every one of these is something that whenever they schedule a new satellite, they have to kind of say what's its trajectory, what's its orbit, and I definitely like these, the Starlinks. It really puts into perspective just how many Starlink satellites are already out there. There's a line of them there. There's another line of Starlink satellites here. They look very foreign, I guess, Ralph, because they're in straight lines that
isn't that weird? I love it. It's so mind-boggling. You can't wrap your head around the thought of. But again, the idea of let's go and clean up the stuff that doesn't need to be there anymore, or it's dead, or it's in this graveyard orbit. Let's get rid of this stuff.
Right.
And I think that's a great idea.
Because it's not easy, and of course, at the same time, Ralph, like being able to pluck it and maybe recycle it, being able to. It costs a lot of money to get something from Earth up into space because you got to pay for the fuel, and really you pay about the pound, and it's many dollars to get it into space. Hey, if there's actually usable junk out there and we can recycle out there, Ralph, it's this stuff is actually worth many thousands of dollars, a pound, just to be able to recycle it up there. So. Maybe one day we'll run a nice, lucrative recycling plant up in space. There you go.
But yeah, it would have to be up in space because, again, the whole idea of this claw is to shove it into atmosphere and burn it up. But you're right; it could be an interesting recycle thing someday. Space stations orbiting the Earth that have these claws bring the goodies back for recycling. Hey, you never know.
Maybe that. So, of all these stories, Ralph, we have like about a minute left. So I wanted you to give a quick overview of story number 11, and then we'll call it a day.
Yes. Story number 11. Everybody, please come out, get the show notes, read this, because we're not going to be able to do it justice with a few seconds left here. But it comes from the United Kingdom's Daily Mail. Remote control cars will compete in the first ever race on the moon. It's all about this project called Moonmark. What they're going to do is have competition with high school kids around the globe to design ideas for remote control cars that they could race on the surface of the moon after extensive trials and tests and so forth. 2 teams in the end of the day will be picked, and they'll work with the McLaren P1 design team to create the vehicles. And then a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket in October 2021 will launch, take the objects ultimately to the moon, and then they'll be able to drive them around in a competition. It's just a fun story. I encourage everybody to go out and get the links, see the images, and learn more about this fun thing.
I'm excited. Yeah, I when I first read the headline of like kind of a race on the moon, I was like, we have too much time as humanity to on our hands. But it makes a lot more sense, and definitely check that out. So Ralph, like I said, we have I think like 3 or 4 stories that we didn't get to in the show notes for anyone out there extra reading. And Ralph, I believe this will be the last time you're on the show for the holidays, and then of course when you come back after January, we'll have a lot of stories from CES and kind of everything that's announced out there. So, which will be all digital, by the way. Computer America will do our best to cover that. Ralph, so any last words for our audience as in terms of the holidays and all that good stuff?
Oh gosh, everybody, please be safe. Wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, and if possible, keep your travel down if you can. And we'll all try to get through this together.
Great advice. And Ralph, we're looking forward to talking to you again. Have a great holiday. See you and your family. And hey, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hey, always a blast, buddy.
All right. Bye, everyone.